Omalo Frederick, teacher of biology and chemistry, but for today I'll handle biology. Third topic of Form 1, which is cell physiology. So I'll define cell physiology and then proceed from there. Cell physiology simply refers to movement of substances into and out of a cell. It could be the cell of a plant, it could also be the cell of an animal. But we know that all cells are usually surrounded by a cell membrane. And cell membrane is the structure that controls movement of substances into and out of a cell. So as far as movement of substances into and out of a cell are concerned, we will have to look at the structure of a cell membrane and how it controls movement of substances into and out of the cell. On this particular diagram that I've drawn, we have two layers of a cell membrane. That means a cell membrane has an upper layer and lower layer. Both upper and lower layers are made up of protein molecules or protein layer. They have phosphate molecules, which are circular structures, and then lipid layers. The two of them, phosphate molecule and lipid molecule, they are both of them joined together to form what we call phospholipid layer. Phosphor from phosphate, lipid, the fatty layer. So a cell membrane has protein layer and phospholipid layer. Within the protein layer, there are some small spaces known as pores. Is a pore. Those pores are the ones that will allow small-sized particles to pass through them while entering into a cell or while coming out of a cell. So, what are the properties of a cell membrane? One, a cell membrane is semi-permeable. That simply means the cell membrane will only allow small-sized particles to pass through it, and large-sized particles will not pass through it. So, characteristics or properties of cell membrane. One, it's selectively permeable. That means a cell membrane will only allow small-sized particles to pass through it while entering into a cell, while large-sized particles will not be allowed to pass through it. Two, cell membrane is charged. The inner part of the cell membrane is negatively charged, while the outer part is positively charged. The charged nature of a cell membrane enables substances to pass through it at a faster rate. Then, third one, a cell membrane is sensitive to changes in temperature. What this means is, if a cell membrane is subjected to very high temperature, the proteins or the protein layer of the cell membrane will be denatured. Once the proteins are denatured within the cell membrane, then the cell membrane will no longer be selectively permeable. So it means it will not allow substances to pass through it. The cell membrane is also sensitive to pH. So changes in pH will end up destroying or altering the nature of the protein layer. Once the protein layer of the cell membrane has been altered, then selectivity of the cell membrane no longer exists. So those four are the main characteristics or properties of the cell membrane. We had to start with cell membrane because we mentioned that it is the one that will regulate movement of substances into and out of a cell. 5. We do have three main physiological processes that take place within a cell. The three physiological processes are you have diffusion, active transport, and the third one, osmosis. So, movement of substances into and out of the cell will involve the three types of physiological processes. Movement of substances can be through diffusion, can be through active transport, can also be through osmosis. We will look at each and every type of physiological process by itself. Let's start off with diffusion. So diffusion is the process by which substances move from their region of high concentration to their region of low concentration. Diffusion can take place through three different types of media. Diffusion can take place through solids, through liquids, and through gases. So diffusion can involve those three different types of media: solids, liquids, and gases. The three different types of media have different rates of diffusion, as we look into later on. So by definition, as mentioned, diffusion is a process by which particles of a substance move from the region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. It can take place within a solid, a liquid, or a gas. It can also take place across a cell membrane or not across a cell membrane. But since you are dealing with cell physiology, the diffusion that we'll be referring to here will involve movement of substances across a cell membrane into the cell or out of the cell. For example, substances that can move into the cell could be respiratory substrates like glucose, amino acids, or fatty acids, which will later on be used, for example, in the process of respiration. In the process of respiration, respiratory substrates like glucose will be broken down to produce energy. In the process of production of energy, water is produced, carbon dioxide gas is also released. Then carbon dioxide gas produced in the cell will pass through the cell membrane out and then transported to excretory site. So in that case, carbon dioxide gas will be moving from the cell where its concentration is high to the outer part of the cell where its concentration is low. Then, what are the factors that affect the rate of diffusion? That is, what conditions will make rate of diffusion to be fast or rate of diffusion to be slow? 1. Temperature. When the temperature is high, the rate of diffusion is fast. The reason why temperature increases the rate of diffusion is, at high temperature, particles possess high kinetic energy. If the kinetic energy is big, then it means particles will move fast. But if temperature is low, the rate of diffusion is slow. The reason is particles possess a small amount of kinetic energy. Second factor, size of particles. If particles are large, then it means they will be heavy. So large and heavy particles usually move slowly. Small sized particles are light and therefore move faster. So the smaller the particle, the faster the rate of diffusion, because particles are light and therefore move fast. The larger the particles, the slower the rate of diffusion, because particles are big and therefore move slowly. Third factor, thickness of membrane. Since here we are talking about cell physiology, which involves movement of substances across the cell membrane, then it means If a cell membrane is thick, it will take a long time for particles to pass across. For example, if we take this to represent the size of a cell membrane or thickness of a cell membrane, and then maybe this other one also to represent thickness of a cell membrane. Since this cell membrane is thick, it will take molecules of particles a long time to pass across. In this other one, if a particle is to move across the cell membrane, it will take a short time. So it means if a cell membrane is thick, the rate of diffusion will be slow because particles cover a long distance to pass across the cell membrane. If a cell membrane is thin, the rate of diffusion is fast because particles take a short time to pass across the cell membrane. The other factor, diffusion gradient. Diffusion gradient simply refers to difference in concentration between two different parts. For example, if the inner part of a cell has high concentration of glucose and the outer part of a cell has low concentration of glucose, then we say the diffusion gradient there is high or big. If the diffusion gradient is big, then particles will move very fast from the region of high concentration to the region of low concentration. But if the diffusion gradient is small, then the rate of diffusion will be slow because the concentration of two different substances or parts are almost the same. Then the other factor, fifth and last one, is medium. The medium in which the diffusion is to take place. If the diffusion is to take place within the air, then it will be fast. If it takes place within a liquid, it will be slow. If it takes place within a solid, it will be very slow. So it means the medium in which the diffusion is taking place also affects the rate of diffusion. The rate of diffusion is fast in gases, followed by liquids, and slowest in solids. Fine, after looking at the factors that affect the rate of diffusion, then let's look at significance or importance of diffusion. How is diffusion as a process important to a plant or an animal? One, means of gaseous exchange. That is, through the process of diffusion, plants are capable of absorbing carbon dioxide gas from the air, which they use in the process of photosynthesis. Animals are also capable of absorbing oxygen from their lungs into the blood. Carbon dioxide gas from the blood diffuses out or moves out of the alveoli into blood and then transported to other parts of the body. Oxygen will also be absorbed and transported to other parts of the body through the process of diffusion. So diffusion is important as a means of gaseous exchange. 2, means of absorption of digested food substances. Once digestion has taken place within the stomach, duodenum, and finally in ileum, within the ileum is where we have villi and microvilli. Once food has been digested, food substances like glucose, amino acids, and fatty acids will then move from the lumen of ileum where the concentration is high and enter into the villi where the concentration is low. And that movement involves diffusion, and therefore absorbed food substances will then enter into blood and transported to various parts of the body where they're used. Third one, means of selective reabsorption. substances in kidney. We know that ultrafiltration takes place within the glomerulus. After the process of ultrafiltration, useful substances like amino acids, which are small sized, and glucose can filter out and enter into the glomerulus. These useful substances, glucose and small sized amino acids, will then be selectively reabsorbed back into blood. That selective reabsorption of glucose and small sized amino acids, which takes place within the nephron, takes place through the process of diffusion. Then the fourth significance of diffusion is means of elimination of waste products. Once waste products have been produced, maybe after several different types of metabolic reactions taking place in the body. For example, carbon dioxide gas, which is usually produced after the process of aerobic respiration, it will then be transported from region where it's highly concentrated, that is where respiration has taken place, and then transported to the lungs where it will be eliminated. Other waste products like urea are also moved from the regions of high concentration to regions of low concentration where they are finally eliminated out of the body. So it means the process of diffusion helps in transportation and finally elimination of waste products out of the body. With that, we are done with the first physiological process, which is diffusion. So in the next lesson, we look at the other two physiological processes, which are active transport and osmosis. Thank you.